Good day to you. Today I want to introduce to you the right brain child. What does it mean? As you know, we have a left brain hemisphere and a right brain hemisphere, two sides. So as far as the motor cortex goes, our left side controls our right side. So when people coin the term left brain and right brain inclination, it doesn't have to do with the physical left and right side. It means that about 70% of the population are into verbal processing of life realities, educational processes. They get it from words and logical sequences. So they came to be known as the left brain people because most of the people are dominant hemisphere is left hemisphere. So it has no correlation, but that's how it got named. So when we say left brain person, it means it's a person who takes it with verbal instructions, learning processes, teaching purposes, and also they are generally logical and sequences are logical. They work out life from details to the big picture. They put the details together and make the big picture. Now, right brain people are visual. When they come into a room, they get the whole scenario and they get the fit that in this room it looks like this, and from that large picture they work into the details, but they first see the large picture. Now, I believe the Lord had designed people 70% or so for left brain kind of processing as the application goes, and a certain percentage, about 30%, are visual and they are into imagination, intuitive. They have this gut feeling. They think of what may work, what may not work. It is a sense they have. Now, because they are visual people, they also do well in arts and pictures and photographs and so on. Now, while that was the normal design of God, what happened over the last 20 years is that because of the digital revolution, so many people began to make pictures their receiving mode, and therefore the visual tracks and the spatial tracks of their brain began to get more wired. They think space and they think pictures. What has now happened is that there are so many extracurricular programs and then even graduate level programs for this kind of aptitude. World is getting flooded over too much with people who are into fashion, entertainment, people who are into arts and pictures, the interior decor people. Now, we needed a percentage of it. And we are having a problem about those who can do systems, dependable, reliable, do mathematics, logical things. So, in some countries, they have to again employ 70-year-old people, 80-year-old people to do the daily grind of keeping systems and management. Now, the class teacher now, even from year 1, will receive a child who is perhaps digitally too stimulated. Worst case scenario, being labeled as ADHD already, a doctor might have diagnosed, saying attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, we have emphasized the fact that inattention, impulsivity, hyperactivity are recognizable, but there is a broad spectrum. When you begin to define a medical entity and pharmaceutical industry gets involved with drugs, what happens is the normal variant also is looked upon as an aberration, or every abnormal bit of behavior tends to get treated with a drug. Usually the mother will go and say, "Oh doctor, it's a big trouble, this child can't sit in one place, do something." So we want to emphasize the fact that world is full of digital pictures and the digital mode of stimulation. So children are getting overwired and overstimulated in certain tracts of the brain which were identified in time gone by as the right brain activity. Now you will find in some reading, some completely deny this right brain left brain difference, but there is an actual helpful understanding if you know what the limitation of this application is. There are people who are visual, aesthetic, imaginative, they like drama and so on, and there are others who are into logical management, and we need both kinds in the world. So when a child comes to us with too much digital and visual stimulation, what we do is we use the child's that overdeveloped track, the right brain learning kind of track, the visual learning kind of track, to get the child into crafts that help them to plan what the end result should be. So they assemble things bit by bit. I have already shown you how this is assembled bit by bit, the color, the cutting, the shapes, the plan, they look at this and they work towards this end. So we make them goal oriented, because the right brain people are when you are overwired in that emphasis, without thinking of a goal and an end, they can go on and on doing certain things. So there is a balance needed. Now already brain science knows that if you have 2 languages learned, Alzheimer does not come on easily. So the ability to do 2 languages, which most of Sri Lankans have, English and Sinhala or English and Tamil, is a great advantage. Now few things more about learning so that parents can have good practices in place. When the child reads solid print, it provides lasting memory. Now we know that world over there is a trend to get the children to become digital earlier and earlier, but now the trend is reversing because they have found too much exposure too early to the digital screen, children laptop and so on. It's counterproductive for actual learning. Children's IQ drops, performance drops. They become daydreamers and they can't do normal work. So now most experts say don't give children laptops till the age of 12. Get them to go through conservative learning processes. Especially for language ability, language learning and language writing, molding and crafts are very important. So when a child is doing plasticine, that is clay molding and making things, that is not only it's helping the child's spatial tracks, which help the child to later write language. It's a big problem. Language learning and language writing has deteriorated all over the world. It has become a clinical medical problem. Because when we ignore God designed things and do so many things artificially, it becomes a problem. So it is good to get the child into handling building blocks and learning that way. Mechanosets are very important. Then games like carom that take aim, and table tennis where the return is quick and child is using right side, left side. And then for right and left brain balancing, swimming is the best sport. So we are appealing to parents whose child has got too dreamy, fantasizing, to get the children into swimming, and you also better learn swimming. And then the father's physical activity or his recreation, leisure or bodybuilding, make swimming part of it and take your child with you. Only thing, it's a little costly exercise, but if your child is really into inattention, impulsivity and hyperactivity, swimming does wonderfully. For more detailed arrangements, there are things that you can while swimming, things that you can do underwater, pick up specific objects and so on. That's a more elaborate therapy procedure, but simple swimming is a very good thing for a parent to do with the child to get the child's left and right brain balance intact. As I said earlier, quick returning games like table tennis is very good, pool, that is table pool is very good. You are getting the children to take aim. Important thing is take aim. They have a limited task set before them, take aim and do this. To this end, these children, if they are hyperkinesthetic, that is they want to move all the time while thinking, then you take that excessive part of them into operation. So you fix a narrow goal fix a narrow goal and get them to kick into that goal, left and right, narrow goal kicking, and that helps them to wire the other side of the brain or the other tracks of the brain. Now, as you see this brain slide, you will recognize in it a pillar or a track. The first one going through the frontal cortex is the intrapersonal, that is, the person is thinking in himself. What does it mean? This is important to recognize your child. Some children, they picture their world within themselves and their answer comes from inside. So, if you ask a child that question, you have to give the child time to think inside. And when you come to adulthood also, there are people who arrive at the solution having processed the information inside. So, when you are picking someone for a job, you need to understand whether this person is intrapersonal. Second track you see on the slide is the interpersonal, that is, these people come to conclusions, their thinking processes and absorption involves talking to other people. In talking to other people, they develop answers, they develop solutions. So, they are interpersonal. You need, when you are recruiting someone for jobs, you need to understand whether the job requires an interpersonal kind of wired person. Thirdly, what you see there is the linguistic track. Some people have to talk their way through. Now, I have 2 grandchildren. Older one is a grandson, he's Nathan, he's 7 years old. He is a thinker, so he thinks within himself and asks questions, and I have to answer very specific questions that he's asking because he's logical. His logical mind has to be satisfied. He'll keep asking, why is that? So, some time back I taught him that flowers are red and leaves are green. He was about 2 years old. He asked me, why is the leaf green? Then I told him, because leaf has chlorophyll. Of course, he doesn't understand chlorophyll. He said, what is that? I said, that's the color in the leaf that produces us food, starch. That he thought is a good enough answer. He stopped that. But he will go on asking a logical question to come at a logical conclusion because he is a logical person. Now, my granddaughter, who is Danica, she is 3.5 years old, she will talk on everything and anything because her absorption and interaction comes from talking widely on many things. One day, one moment she is talking dolls, next moment she is talking another thing. So, children differ, and parents, you have to allow those children to develop like that. The most precious thing you have is the child, and the book of Proverbs says, teach a child in the way he should go. And Proverbs chapter 4 tells us how David the king taught his son Solomon. This is how the proverb goes. Solomon in later life is telling his children. Solomon was a famous king of Israel, as you know. He is considered the wisest king. He was very rich. He did some foolish things because his heart went wrong. But this is what he learned from his father David. Hear, my children, instruction of a father, and give attention to no understanding, for I give you good doctrine. When I was my father's son, tender and only one in the sight of my mother, he also taught me and said to me. So, when David was nurturing Solomon, though David was the king, he was giving personal instruction to Solomon, keeping Solomon on his knee. That's how any modern father should be teaching the son. So, first 5 years is learning habits, training habits. 6 years to 12, the father must time to teach the son something father could teach. Because between ages 6 and 12, son or daughter interacts best in learning. So, maybe you are good at math, teach the son a little bit of mathematics. Maybe you are good in science or good in